Hi, Mishka. Welcome back to my channel. So, in today's episode of Our Life Beginnings and Always, we are going to be continuing with step 4 of Derek's epilogue or whatever, or Derek's DLC. So, if you've not seen the last one, go check that out because you'll understand where we're at. But yeah, today we're going to be continuing with this. But before we get started, make sure that this is my god, I'm messing up my words. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe and share this video with your friends. Thinking about my amazing channel just like right now. So yeah, let's get into. I hope you enjoy. Derek hesitated at the door and tapped at his bottom lip. He was double checking his mental list, but that was too resolved in short order. You both stepped out into the hall, and this time he remembered to lock the door before he dashed down the hall. Hopping into his car, he promptly took off. The drive was lively. You spent it taking turns telling each other new stories about your families and your latest personal adventures. Thanks to slowing, moving traffic, it was a 20-minute drive to reach his parents' new place. Derek pulled in and automatically noted how lucky you were that this condo had guest spots. Nodding along, you followed as he enthusiastically showed you the way. Derek knocked solidly, but not loudly on the door. They knew you were coming. It didn't take you by surprise when the door almost immediately pulled open. Mrs. Suarez joyfully greeted you both. Oh my god. Girl, she's so pretty. Look at their new house. Hi, welcome home. Without a second, she wrapped her eldest into her arms. Derek gladly hugged her back with the same vigor. Hey, Mom.
Good to see you.
It's so good to see you. May too. She ushered you two inside and you got your first look around. The Suarezes had moved there a couple years ago, but you'd never gotten to visit until now. It was still just as homey and comfortable as her old apartment. When you traveled further inside, you spotted Mr. Suarez sitting at the kitchen table with a chilled drink. He took a slow, drawn-out sip. And then he placed the cup down and got up to join everyone else. He stood in front of you like you were a newly arrived audience, pointing at his wife and tattled. Oh no, he's getting old. Mom made me promise not to get the door. She wouldn't be the one to answer. Mrs. Suarez was unapologetic and owned up to her actions entirely. She went over to her husband and soothingly rubbed his back. Thanks for being such a good sport about it. Of course, but I get to have my greeting now. Doing exactly as he promised, Mr. Suarez turned from his wife to you and Derek, the two guests in his home. He pushed his glasses higher up his nose. Hello, kids. I'm happy you came early. I couldn't ask for better visitors. It's great to see you too. You hugged them as you spoke. Overjoyed, you shot forward. One after another, you squeezed both Mr. and Mrs. Suarez into a hug that they each returned eagerly. My god, I can't talk. It's always tough when our kids are gone, but we certainly missed having you running around with them. Yes, it hasn't been the same without you. It was easy for you to think of Mr. and Mrs. Suarez as the second set of parents after all the years they've been a part of your life. You knew they'd always be there for you if you asked. Okay. Derek clapped his hands together and you couldn't help but smirk. The image reminded you so much of his mom trying to bring order to her rambunctious sons. And speaking of, so where are the bros? It is the same as always. You arrived first. It made sense to you that you'd beaten George there. He had to rearrange his day on the fly to make it, but why wasn't Nico there? Your eyebrows raised in surprise. Oh no, you didn't have to ask for an explanation. Mrs. Suarez gabbed about it in an intentionally overdramatic tone. That is my question each day. Nico is never home with me anymore. Now that school's out, he travels into the city as soon as he gets up and only comes back in the evening for dinner. A mother's gloom over her baby growing up was given its silver lining by the father. He's independent. He is usually, but Mrs. Suarez held herself up and her lips curled into a mischievous grin. She added a wink when she shifted her attention to you. I might have sent a text that you two were coming by. I'm sure that'll get his attention. He'll get his butt here back sooner rather than later for a change. Right. It struck you then by Derek's understanding tone that none of this was news to him. They were explaining Nico's habits for your sake. The whole family was as polite as they were perceptive. Since we've got time, why don't you show me the condo? I was about to suggest the same thing. What do you think, May? Want to take a tour? For sure. Mrs. Suarez's delight was evident. She endearingly lipped her arms around through yours to lead you directly. Similarly to what Derek had done earlier that day, his parents led you through the highlights of their new home. Mr. Suarez proudly listed all the amenities the complex offered outside as well. Derek leisurely followed along behind the group, loosely listening to the fact list. He had a few notes to add here and there. Sometime later, a phone interrupted the conversation with a loud ding. Oh, sorry, that's me. He partially shifted the phone out of his loose pocket and checked for any important news. He beamed victoriously and let his phone slide back into the depths. George is here! And with good timing, the tour was complete. Let's go meet Junior. The current group left the hall behind and crowded into the living room, ready for the party to grow in size. As you got there, you heard a firm and even paced string of knocks on the door. Mr. Swears eagerly shouted over the noise or sound. My turn. Fair is fair. Cheerily, Mr. Swears jumped off and swung the door wide open, knowing that his middle son was on the other side. Oh my god. What happened to George? Oh, he ain't bad at all. Oh my god. And he was, although George Jr. Suarez was hardly a junior anymore. George had not only grown taller than his big brother, but he also towered over his parents. Your jaw would have been on the floor if Derek hadn't mentioned this earlier. Still, from his neat sandy brown hair, his calm expression, and relaxed sense, you knew that he was still the same boy you knew as a kid. George also remained a placid presence in his rambunctious family. They cheered at his arrival and he smiled sweetly. Oh, hello, I hope I didn't keep you waiting. Oh, what? Oh my god. Welcome home, Junior. Don't worry about that. You can take long at all. Can we go for George instead of Derek? Derek struck when George was distracted by their parents. He hooked an arm around his brother's neck and pulled him close. George hugged Derek to his side. So Derek's already here, huh? Yeah, I am. Never would have guessed that. The brothers let go and gave each other one last light shove. George, went over to you next. Hey, mate, it's been a while. I missed you. You opened your arms for a hug. Oh. I'm sorry. Oh my god. His expression softened fondly. He willingly wrapped you in a big hug. You sighed contentedly. I missed you too. You noticed the remaining rigidness lift from George's frame. He snagged a drink from the kitchen and settled in. He was joined there by the others and he recounted his day so far. Eventually you all heard the distinct sound of the doorknob jingling and turning. No knocking was required for this one. And we're gonna see the brat. There's only one person it could be. The last to arrive for the gathering, the last to have been born, Nicholas. The door popped open with a swish and you saw that you were undeniably right. Oh my god. Did he turn into a girl? It was Nico, but his appearance had your brows pinching. Oh no, is he transgender? He was, oh, I'm sorry, that's offensive to everyone. I'm sorry. I'm shocked. What? He was extremely different, yet simultaneously so similar to the tiny 6-year-old you had first met him as. What? Somehow his hair managed to be even wilder than when he was an elementary school kid, but besides that, he'd become a young man despite continuing to be a baby in your mind's eye. Okay. So is this just your style? I mean, I'm not surprised about that, but like, oh my god, I thought he was a girl for a second. He was sporting a colorful rainbow romper that was fashionable as it was functional, as well as his iconic hair clips around the mix of old and new. Nicholas is back! With the roll of his eyes, Nicholas animated gestured and held out his arms. You bit back an amused laugh. No shit, I live here, that's not news. News is that Derek and May are back. He bounced lower and managed to securely lock himself around his big brother's wide chest. Derek wrapped an arm around his brother's shoulders in response. Derek ruffled Nico's long, thick hair before letting him go. It was sweet that the gesture of affection between them hadn't changed, even though Derek didn't have to lean down to do it anymore. Hello, son. Thank you for coming. Alright, where's my hug? Walking by, Nicholas gave a short wave to his parents and then elbowed George chummingly as his hello. George teasingly retaliated with a poke to his little brother's side. Finally, Nicholas stopped in front of you. Hey May, welcome back to Casa Suarez. My sweet baby boy, you hugged him. He groaned as he tightly trapped him in a hug. He seasonally held on for a little longer. Come on, I ain't sweet or a baby. Alright. He let the squirming boy go and he defensively crossed his arms. Nicholas tried to maintain his chill demeanor, but he wasn't as unaffected of a teen as he'd like to be. Now the whole 𝐕𝐲𝐹 family plushie was together again. Mr. 𝐕𝐲𝐹 admiringly looked at his wife and then his sons. He securely hooked his fingers into his belt loops.
Good.
This is very good, yes. I wonder if everyone here will be coming back tomorrow as well. Of course, Dad. May and I are going to be here for sure. I might manage to work it into my busy schedule. We'll all be there. I already can't wait for tomorrow.
Wonderful.
Super, that's exactly what I wanted for the day. And oh no. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Oh no. You curiously peeked at Derek and watched him shift his feet oddly. A tingle of excitement started coming off of him and you realized what he had in mind. Oh no. Oh! Since we're here, man, I have got to tell you something. What? You're in a relationship. Dad! What? Is that wrong? Were we not aware what day Derek felt about May? I love this family. Mrs. 𝐕𝐲𝐹 groaned loudly and hid her face in the palms of her hands. George put his hands on his hips, giving his dad a hard look. Maybe, maybe not. We have no idea. Don't steal their thunder before they've said anything. He's right, Giorgio. Let them talk. Or Gregorio. Oh, Giorgio. I don't know. Sorry. Mr. 𝐕𝐲𝐹 stroked his beard thoughtfully. Oh, sorry, kids. Derek, please keep going. What did you want to say?
Okay.
Yes, forget I said a word. My lips are sealed. Derek shot you a look that was both apologetic and encouraging. He turned back to the waiting eyes of his family and scratched his cheek. Way to spoil it, you joked. Teasingly, you wrinkled your nose before laughing. It's actually pretty hilarious that we're that predictable. Derek cozily drew you into his side in front of a delighted crowd. Mrs. 𝐕𝐲𝐹 was instantly elated by that news. She started clapping and knocked a shoulder into her husband's side.
Very good.
I hope that was going to be the news. This is amazing. Quite a surprise, too. George slowly shook his head and laughed. His crooked smile grew.
That makes sense.
You together, it just makes sense. I'm happy for you. Thanks. This means everything to me. Oh. The warmth on Derek's face intensified. He combed his fingers messily through his own hair and continued the conversation good-humoredly. Actually, funnily enough, in a way, this is old news. He chuckled as the rest of the group fell silent in confusion. You knew what was coming, though you didn't intend on cutting Derek off. This was in the works for a decade, an under-the-table type of thing. To make a long story short, May and I promised we'd get married if we were both single at 23, so just dating is taking the relationship slower than we planned. I can confirm that's a true story. I was there. Oh, they're shocked! Mr. 𝐕𝐲𝐹 is just lying on. Stunned to silence by the revelation, the 𝐕𝐲𝐹 family stared at you both for a moment. The first time in life you spotted was the smirk twisting on George's face again. Sounds like Derek. I'm glad my boyfriend comes in with good in-laws. Placing a hand over her heart, Mrs. 𝐕𝐲𝐹 glanced at her husband. He matched her tender smile. Oh, we're grateful to have you. We couldn't have dreamed of someone better suited for our Derek. Oh. Ah. Derek rubbed the back of his neck out of embarrassment, but you caught him peeking at you still. You wonder how you won the romance lottery. Breathing steadier now that the hard part was over, it suddenly struck you that someone had been uncharacteristically quiet. The audience had only consisted of the 3 out of the 4 members of Derek's family. Nicholas had nothing to say, or nothing he was willing to mention out loud. Before you could pass observation on to Derek, his subdued expression showed that he was aware. That actually didn't surprise you. He was never one to ignore his little brother. Nicholas hung behind the crowd. Derek maintained eye contact with him. Since there was nowhere to hide, Nicholas plastered a smile on his face. But he still wouldn't speak. Derek was as equally silent. There was something there, and he wasn't going to open that can of worms in front of everyone. Instead, he glanced down. Your presence chased his worries away. His joyful excitement reignited. Oh my god. You followed Derek's lead and allowed yourself to be happy. There would be plenty of opportunities later to talk everything out with Nicholas. And he can deal with it. Screw him. The rest of Derek's family continued to voice their sincere encouragement of your relationship before letting the conversation calm down and shift. Things returned to the usual comfort you enjoyed when you were with the Suarez's. Mr. and Mrs. Suarez provided lunch. It was nice for the whole family to be sitting at one busy table. But afterwards, Derek announced that you two should hit the road. I'm gonna get going too. I've still got a class later. Are you serious? We've barely done anything. Sorry, Nico. We gotta take the trip out to Sunsetburg before it gets any later. Fine, me, you, and George are doing something together, not just the Father's Day thing, okay? Something that's gotta be fun with just us. Sighing affectionately, Mrs. Suarez shared a look with her snickering husband. Nicholas was going through the iconic parents are uncool teen phase. Don't worry, I made sure to have the whole day free. I promised to come over early. Derek tilted his head towards you, slightly asking your opinion before agreeing to anything. Okay, that's fine with me. Cool, got that. We'll both be there on count on it. Oh my god. We can do whatever Nico wants in the afternoon, then it'll be Dad's pick in the evening. Alright, see you then. And with that settled, everyone exchanged their goodbyes and see you soon. You and Derek left in good spirits. You hopped back into his car, already eager for home. Sunsetburg was waiting for you. During the drive, you sent a text off to your moms to let your moms know that you were coming by soon. They knew you were arriving today, but they had no idea when you were going to be free to come see them. Humming to yourself, Derek sped down the highway. The city skyscrapers were far behind you in the distance, and there was nothing but rolling hills of green. It was strange to be sitting shotgun with Derek after all the years of your friendship being trapped in the long-distance zone, but at the same time, it also wasn't. What was arguably stranger was how his presence affected you. Having him there by your side was the most normal thing in the world to you. Soon enough, you began to recognize the landmarks dotting the way to your hometown. Excitement buzzed under your skin. You were ready to get back home. The car flew past the now leaving sign. You rolled down the window to wave at it. Officially, you were finally back in Sunsetburg. It didn't take more than a few minutes to drive through the rest of the town and roll into the sleeping neighborhood where you grew up. Derek parked along the curb and you both slid out.
Nice work.
We made it, safe and sound. Derek leisurely leaned on his car. He looked over the roof at you and lifted a questioning brow. Do you want to see Mr. Holden too? We have time. Yeah. Eagerly, you glanced over the Holden household. There was a good chance that Mr. Holden would be home. That's a great idea. Thanks. I've been known to have them once in a while. So what do you want to do first? See your moms or go check on Mr. Holden? Let's visit Mr. Holden first. If he's not there, then we can try again after seeing my mom's. And if he's there now, there's a chance he might not be when we're done with the other visit. Sounds reasonable to me. Together you crossed the street and walked up to the familiar door. It was still a little odd remembering the condo was not only inhabited by one single Holden. You rang the doorbell and waited. Luckily, the familiar face of Mr. Holden appeared in the hallway and beamed at seeing you. Hi! Derek gave a big wave that Mr. Holden returned cheerily until his brain caught up enough to let him speak. Where in the world did you come from? Surprise! You tipped your head back and burst into a deep laugh. When you could breathe again, you pointed your thumb at Derek. He's letting me stay at his place so I could come visit. That's great. Come on in. He waited for you two to follow inside. You did, and he glanced back over his shoulder to address you further. So what can I do for you two today? We were in the neighborhood. I just wanted to visit. Mr. Holden took a good look at you with a wobbly grin. Oh, even after growing into such a successful grown-up, you still haven't forgotten your dear old neighbor. Oh, I hope you've been doing well. I have. It's been good. Really good.
How's it going?
Glad to hear that. And your moms, are they doing alright? I haven't actually seen them yet. We're going there next. Oh, could I tag along? I've been meaning to visit them, and it'd be nice to stick with you two a little longer. Yeah, that'd be perfect. Let's move this party across the street. Nothing else needed to be said after that. The newly arranged group pivoted out the door and strolled right over to your childhood home. Without missing a beat, you located and rang the oddly placed doorbell. Ma expectantly answered the door. Her eyes sparkled and landed on you immediately. Hello, sweetie, and Derek, welcome. A few seconds later, she realized there was a third less anticipated guest at her doorstep. She tried buying back her giggles with little success. Oh, and hello to you, stranger. Hey there, the kids swung by and thought I'd visit too. What a lovely surprise. Come in, come in. Ma steps inside, grinning widely. She held the door all the way open so everyone could hurry through. Hey, Mom's voice rang out from the hall right before she appeared physically in front of you. She excitedly stopped at her wife's side.
Nice.
Woo, what a great crowd. I missed you. You threw your arms around both of them. Diving into them, you could feel one of them soothingly rubbing your back as they held you close. You held onto them tighter. We missed you, kiddo. Every day. Derek gently worked his way into the conversation. You didn't miss the way his skin was suddenly a shade rosier than before.
Good to see you.
Thanks, Mrs. and Mrs. Taylor, for letting me come by, too. It's nice to see you again. You don't need to thank us for that. You can come over anytime. You're an excellent guest. Yes, and we need to thank you for giving our maid a place to stay. Now we'll get to visit with her even more this summer. They shared a knowing look with their eyes alight. They had to be thinking of their big anniversary later in the season. You'd be coming back to Sunset Berg for that. You didn't mind all the traveling. It was worth it. Good point. Happy almost anniversary. Thank you. That's going to be a night to remember, I'm sure. I bet. We're going to have a nice little shindig at the Cypress. But what's that shaking? You've been busy? Oh no. There was certainly a lot going on in your and Derek's lives. You had an inkling of what was, again, coming to mind first for Derek. His body went stiff, and it was obvious that for once he was struggling to find what to say. Understandably, Derek wasn't as confident in front of your family as he was with his own. He knew with his own family that he'd be supported unconditionally, but here there was an underlying fear that he might not be good enough for this audience. You smiled encouragingly to get him talking. There was still uncertainty in his eyes, his lips parted to take a deep breath, but your surety helped it lessen. Then Derek faced your parents head on. Ashley, we have had some eventful days. Before anything else, I want you to know that me and I are in a relationship now. It took a second for the news to register, but it hit like a string of dominoes. Both of your mom's eyes went wide with surprise, and then Mr. Holden's did too. Mom bent forward with a soft chuckle and loudly snorted. I thought this might happen ever since May invited him to that sorority, remember? Ma hummed nostalgically. She reached over and threaded her fingers together with Mom's.
Yes.
Derek has always been quite the gentleman. Aww. It didn't escape our notice that Derek has had an interest in our May long enough for us to know he means it. It's true, he's a keeper. May is an excellent kid, and I know for a fact that Derek's a great guy. I'm sure things are going to work out for you two. And with that, Derek let out a relieved breath. You were ready to steady him out of worry that he might fall over with the release of his inner worries. But he brightened with a bold grin. He exuded so much confidence that you could almost believe the former tension never happened. Thanks, I appreciate it more than I can try to describe. You bet. She reassuringly went over to Derek and patted his arm. Her gaze affectionately moved between you and him. The two of you are responsible adults, and I know what's right for you. If being together is it, then I wish you both the best. Ma came forward and clasped Derek's hand. Thank you for always treating our daughter so well.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Even as friends, I never want to do wrong by May. You shifted your attention to Mr. Holden next, for his opinion next. He probably gave you a thumbs up.
Absolutely.
The two of you ladies hit the nail on the head. Thanks. Oh my god. Come down, tell us about how it all happened. We need the details. The group relaxed and hung out in the living room. Each person shared updates from the past and plans for the future. It went on until the sun began to set. At that point, you and Derek decided that it was best to leave sooner rather than later. The end of the visit was accepted with grace. Bye. Thanks again for coming to see us.
Take care.
Tell Mrs. Swears Happy Father's Day for us. We'll be sure to do that. Mr. Holden remained in his seat longer. He had already planned on visiting with your moms a little while longer. Take care. It's great seeing you. Bye. Oh my god. With that, you stepped out into the warm embrace of the evening air. Leaving the house, going onto that street, it was something you'd done countless times. Believing how much the context of that action had changed was hard. You were only here on a visit, and your boyfriend Derek Suarez had joined you. A true twist in the story of older days. Derek followed you out, but didn't go to his car. Instead, he stepped into the center of the road and stayed there. His gaze wandered up the hill and past that off into the distance. He spoke with a voice as comforting as the familiar song of the crickets. Hey, before we go, could we stretch our legs a bit? There's one other thing I want to do while we're here. That's no problem, let's do it. Cool, thanks. Derek tilted his head in the direction he wanted to go, his mouth hooked into a grin, and then he started strolling. You followed at his side. He gently slipped his fingers around yours and made your heart flutter joyfully. Oh. Derek moved with wide, carefree stride. You giggled as your linked hands swung with each step. You found yourself headed outside the residential area of Sunset Burton onto the main street. Oh no, we're gonna go see where we did it, like the concrete as a kid. It had been nice to refamiliarize yourself with the yard during the little jaunt. Derek had a conversation going between you two. Well, damn, that went better than I expected. With our families, though, even saying it out loud to them still hasn't made it feel totally real yet. There's no way you're actually dating me, I think. Aww. What I can't believe is that it took almost 10 entire years. Scrutinizing him, you let yourself think about the magnitude of the entire situation. It had been a long time coming. Derek cracked a smile before letting his gaze fall to the ground. The conversation hung on that note. The walk continued, and you had a good idea of where he was going at that point. There was something in the middle. There was something coming up in the middle of the pass, and it wouldn't hold any interest to anyone other than you, Derek, and Cove. For the three of you, it was special. Derek crouched down to the ground right where you expected. He smiled wistfully at a decade-old inscription. The writing was well worn but still visible. He slowly placed his finger over the small print he left in the concrete as a 13-year-old. He was so much larger than he used to be. His finger completely eclipsed the tiny mark, and yet he still seemed small to you in that moment. Next, Derek moved to the initials you made. He dragged his fingertip over to carefully trace it. There was something going on in his mind that swept him away miles away all of a sudden. You had no idea what it could be, and the uncertainty left a sour taste on your tongue. Derek remained transfixed with the concrete and his own eternal musing. Gradually, his frown worsened.
This sucks.
Time is a sucky thing to play against. If you mess up, that's it. Even if you try to turn things around later, you're not getting what you lost back. It's just gone. Making mistakes isn't a waste. You place a comforting hand on his shoulder. Derek tried to smile. It was half-hearted. That's a better way to think about it than being eternally frustrated, but he stopped, shifting his attention back to the ground instead. You could tell he couldn't apply it to himself. That was all that came of it. Derek pushed off the ground and got back on his feet. He brushed some dirt off and took out his phone. He got a picture of himself giving a thumbs up from the concrete slab. The solid mirror around him vanished. I'm gonna text this to Cove. That's very cute. A bashful blush rose in his cheeks. Derek studied the picture again. Well, I bet Cove will get a kick out of us stopping by here. Me too. You caught Derek's gaze wandering off again. He hummed thoughtfully and you followed his eyeline to the local store across the street. I just remembered I'm still low on groceries. We could journey over there. We could, but I'm worried things could go back on the drive back to the apartment. Plus, it's already been a super long day. How about we pick something up for dinner and save the shopping for tomorrow? My treat. Sounds like a rock solid plan to me. Awesome. Think about what you're in the mood for and let's get going. Together, you eagerly went back the way you came. This time you got in the car and drove out of Sunset Bird once more. Derek ordered from your preferred drive-thru and temporarily parked in the shade to pass out the goods. He handed you your drink and a folded paper bag with your food. You dug it immediately. Derek's ride was nice and still had a new car smell, but he had no problem with people eating in it. He shared his philosophy of the inevitability that lived-in stuff is going to get dirty. He wasn't going to get mad about normal wear and tear. With a big family of busy boys, an inability to keep things pristine certainly must have been an unavoidable fact of life for Derek. You and him enjoyed the meal. It was long finished when he pulled into his apartment's designated parking spot. With sunset dimmed down to inky blackness, it was hard to see. Derek switched on an interior car light as he gathered up the trash in the bags that had dinner come in. He led the way to his place, key in hand, and unlocked his door. Derek held it open for you instead of going through. You could have told someone he'd do that before it ever happened. That was second nature to Derek. You took a few steps in and flicked on the front light switch. Derek came in a second and closed the door behind him. Phew. He walked further into his living room and plopped down on his couch. That was a successful day, a long, successful day. I feel like you've already been here a week and you got here this morning. I'm glad to be back. Today had cemented why you had to come on this trip. You needed this. What a coincidence. I'm glad you're back too. Derek laid his head back as he thought. Tomorrow's gonna be busy too. He raised his hand and counted each of the planned activities with a finger. Groceries, taking the bros out, and then the Father's Day thing. It'll be great. You couldn't wait. Hopefully you'll be able to sleep well tonight because you need to recharge your batteries for the next series of events. Derek blinked sleepily, sinking further into the couch. He looked cozy. He shook himself and suddenly clapped his hands together. But hey, you probably want to shower and settle in for real before it gets even later. He grabbed the back of the couch and held himself to his feet. We can always work on the schedule when we're not sweaty and exhausted. Sounds like a plan to me. See you soon then. Derek waved you off as you returned to the guest room. You got your stuff, you put your toiletries in the bathroom and shower. You try to be quick and were assuming your pajamas, winding down for the night. Once again, you were back in your room. You plugged in your phone charger and unpacked tomorrow's clothes. A knock rattled your door. Can I come in? Yeah. Thanks. Derek accepted your invitation and shut the door behind him after he walked in. Sup, lovely lady? Aw. Hi. You sat on the bed and patted the spot next to you. Hold on, wait. You went over to Derek? No. You sat on the bed and patted the spot next to you. You shut your suitcase and climbed on the edge of the bed. You scooted to the corner, leaving room for a Derek-sized person to sit down. Derek stood in the corner of the room, not getting the hint until you gestured at the empty space beside you. Oh. He strode forward and hopped onto the mattress. The bed bounced beneath you. He grinned boyishly at you. Everything good in here? It is, thanks for asking. Yeah, of course, I'm glad it's going well. Derek stretched his arms above his head and yawned. Despite his sleepiness, he remained upbeat. Rather than seeing down the conversation, he appeared to be mulling over something, probably what to say next. He wasn't being responsible and going to bed early. You didn't mind. This was your first day having gotten together, and there was no need to rush its end. A spark came to his eyes, inspiration striking him. He instinctively leaned closer to you, bringing your faces almost nose to nose. May, while you're here, we should go to a water park. There's one a ways away, but it'd be something worth it. He eagerly continued to lay out his thought process. We haven't done something like that since that boardwalk. Man, that was ages ago. Our families were there. If we tried, we could keep it just you and me. Obviously, there's not a chance tomorrow, so how about the day after that? We could get there first thing, spend the afternoon together, and get going before it's late. He paused and took a hopeful breath, all of his attention focused on your reaction. So, what do you think? Yeah, I'd love to go. It sounded like a lot of fun. You remembered how much Derek had talked of water parks before. Going to a water park would be such a fantastic thing to do. Alright. Wait a second. His eyes went wide as something dawned on him. Would that be a date? Am I asking you on a date? That's kind of up to you, I'd say. That realization hit him hard. Derek's teeth were clenching and leaned back as he tried to process. Oh, hold on. He held his hands in the air in front of you, frighteningly, and gestured for you to stay. I gotta do something, but I'll be right back. Please, well, you know. He launched himself off the bed and across the floor. He fled the room before you could blink. You stay put, not sure what else to do. Derek should be okay, hopefully. Confusion was your main emotion. Derek immediately asked you on a date and then ran off. You waited in silence, occasionally tapping your foot. It happened about a minute till your phone rang. You couldn't help but chuckle at the absurd timing of the interruption. You glanced at your phone on the side table and then craned your neck to see if Derek was anywhere to be found. Derek wasn't in the hall. You went over to your phone and picked it up. You didn't plan on answering it, but did want to see who in the world needed to ring right at that moment. The name lit up by your caller ID was Derek. What? You paused, doing nothing but staring at your jingling device in your palm. Then you slid your finger over the screen to answer. Hey there, what's going on? Derek chuckled. You could hear the nerves in his voice even through the slight distortion from the phone. Hello, this is Derek Suarez. You were on my mind and I want to see you, and so I'm calling to ask if you'd agree to go on a date on Monday. You instantly laughed loudly but affectionately. Why did you have to call me to ask me that? People arrange dates in person all the time. Derek hesitated before responding, then replied soft and shy. Well, if you want the truth, since I was finally asking you out for real, I felt like I owed it to my younger self to do it over the phone. Aw. That only gave you more questions. You waited for him to continue. His voice quieted almost a whisper. There were, over the years, I've thought about you a lot. You've never been forgettable. No matter how busy I was, I still remember how great it was hanging out with. I missed you. And then I'd hype myself up, tell myself to pick up the stupid phone and ask you out. It wouldn't be the end of the world if you didn't want to, and hey, maybe it would work out. I marched over to the phone, put it to my ear, my fingers on the buttons, and then nothing. I put it back down with a sigh and think about how I didn't really have the time and you were probably busy and you wouldn't want to date me anyway. This time I did. I really called you and I said what I wanted to say. I wouldn't have said no if you asked. You would have treasured hearing from him, and going out would have been something wonderful. You had missed him too. Derek laughed, a short and uncomfortable sound. Thanks. Sucks even more that I didn't do it, but I'd still rather hear I missed the chance than that it was destined for failure. No one spoke and the awkwardness began to press on you. But Derek brightened his voice, unwilling to let it linger any longer. Well, it's late. I shouldn't keep you up. I'll see you tomorrow bright and early. We should plan to leave the apartment by around 8 for shopping. Everything's close enough that we can walk if that's alright. Okay. Great. Good night, May. Yeah. Good night, Derek. You heard a beep and the call ended. You put your phone back on the table in your empty room. After all of what you had earned your exhaustion, you were at your limit, too sleepy to do anything else. You flicked the light switch and went straight to bed. And this is where I'm going to leave today's episode, everyone. So, oh my god. Wow. That was interesting. But yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed it. But lastly, you're Gemma. Thank you for watching. Wonderful day, everyone. Bye!